"Boy, fetch my horse." The crack of the whip against the leather boot was the only warning. Thomas, a stable boy of 12, with dirt-streaked cheeks and hands calloused from labour, dropped his pitchfork and ran. He knew better than to keep the Duke waiting. The Duke of Somerset, Lord Richard, was a man who consumed the world around him. He was large, loud, and perpetually angry. He had ruled the estate for 10 years, ever since the tragic death of his older brother, the true Duke, in a carriage accident that had also claimed the lives of the Duchess and their infant son. Or so the story went. Thomas led the black stallion Midnight out of the stall. The horse was skittish, rolling its eyes and stamping its hooves. Midnight hated the Duke. Animals always know. "Steady," Thomas whispered, stroking the horse's velvet nose. "He won't ride you long. He's too drunk to gallop." The horse calmed instantly under the boy's touch. It nudged Thomas's shoulder, a gesture of affection it showed to no one else. Thomas led the beast into the courtyard where Lord Richard was waiting, surrounded by his sycophantic hunting party. "About time, rat," Richard sneered, snatching the reins. He looked at Thomas with a familiar, inexplicable loathing. There was no reason for a duke to hate a stable boy. Thomas was quiet. He worked hard. He slept in the straw and ate scraps from the kitchen. But every time Richard looked at the boy, his lip curled. Perhaps it was the way Thomas stood, straight-backed, unafraid, looking him in the eye when he should have been cowering. "Check the girth," Richard barked, raising his riding crop. "And if you've saddled him wrong, I'll take the skin off your back." Thomas checked the cinch. It was perfect. It always was. "He is ready, Your Grace," Thomas said. Richard didn't say thank you. He swung himself into the saddle, heavy and clumsy. He yanked the reins hard. Midnight reared, protesting the rough treatment. "Beast!" Richard shouted, striking the horse between the ears with the crop. "No!" Thomas shouted, stepping forward instinctively. "Don't hit him! You're confusing him!" The courtyard went silent. The hunting party gasped. A stable boy giving orders to a duke? It was unheard of. Richard froze. He looked down at Thomas. His face turned a mottled, ugly red. "What did you say to me?" Richard hissed. Thomas realised his mistake. He lowered his head, but he didn't back down. "I said, 'You are hurting him, Your Grace. A horse must be guided, not beaten.'" Richard laughed, a cold, dangerous sound. "Guided? You think you can teach me horsemanship, boy? You? The son of a kitchen drudge?" Richard dismounted slowly. He tossed the reins to a guard. "Come here," he said. Thomas didn't move. "I said, come here." 2 guards grabbed Thomas, dragging him forward. They forced him to his knees in the mud. Richard stood over him, tapping the riding crop against his boot. "You have a mouth on you, boy," Richard said softly. "Just like your mother. That woman stalks the kitchen like she owns the place. Perhaps I should teach you both a lesson in humility." He raised the crop. Thomas flinched, bracing for the blow, but before it could fall, a voice rang out, clear, commanding, terrifying. "Stop!" It wasn't a shout. It was a command spoken with the absolute certainty of obedience. Richard stopped. The crop hovered in the air. He turned. Standing in the doorway of the kitchen was Sarah, the head cook. She was a woman of 40, worn down by years of scrubbing floors and kneading dough. Her hair was hidden under a rough linen cap. Her apron was stained with flour. She usually kept her head down, invisible, a ghost in the machine of the manor. But today she was not looking down. She was looking straight at the Duke, and her eyes were burning. "Go back to your ovens, woman," Richard growled, though his voice wavered slightly. "This does not concern you." "It concerns me deeply," Sarah said, walking into the courtyard. She didn't walk like a servant. She walked with a gliding, measured step that barely disturbed the dust. "Do not strike my son, Richard," she said. Richard laughed, incredulous. "Or what? You'll burn my roast? You'll poison my wine?" Sarah stopped 10 feet away. "Or I will tell them," she said. "Tell them what? That you are an insolent hag?" "No," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried across the silent yard. "I will tell them why the carriage wheels broke 10 years ago. I will tell them about the saw marks on the axle. I will tell them who paid the blacksmith to weaken the iron." Richard went pale. The crop fell from his hand. "You know nothing," he stammered. "You are a cook. I am a mother," Sarah said, "and a mother sees everything." She looked at Thomas. "Get up, Thomas." The guards, sensing the shift in power, let the boy go. Thomas scrambled to his mother's side. He looked at her confused. He had never seen her like this. She was usually so quiet, so fearful of the Duke. "Who are you?" Richard whispered, staring at her. I have seen you for 10 years. You are nobody." Sarah reached up. Slowly, deliberately, she untied the linen cap that hid her hair. She pulled it off. A cascade of hair fell down her back. It was streaked with grey now, but it was still thick, wavy, and unmistakably auburn, the colour of the Somerset line. She reached into the pocket of her apron. She pulled out a ring. It wasn't a simple wedding band. It was a heavy gold signet ring, engraved with a roaring lion. She slipped it onto her finger. "I am not nobody, Richard," she said. "I am the woman who jumped." Richard stumbled back as if struck. "No," he breathed. "You died. The river, the current." "I jumped," Sarah repeated. "I saw the wheel break. I saw my husband die, and I knew in that split second that it wasn't an accident. I knew you had done it, and I knew that if you found us alive, you would finish the job." She placed a hand on Thomas's shoulder. "So I took my son, and I jumped into the freezing water. We washed ashore miles downstream. I sold my dress for rags. I stained my face with walnut juice. I cut my hair, and I came back." "Why?" Richard cried, his eyes wild. "Why come back here?" "Because it is the last place you would look," Sarah said calmly. "You are too arrogant to look at the faces of your servants, Richard. To you, we are furniture. I knew I could hide here, in your own kitchen, watching you, waiting for my son to be strong enough to take back what is his." She turned to Thomas. "Give me your hand, Thomas." Thomas held out his dirty hand. Sarah took it. She rolled up his sleeve, revealing his wrist. There, on the inside of his wrist, was a birthmark. It was shaped like a crescent moon, dark and distinct. Richard stared at it. He made a choking sound. "The Somerset mark," Sarah announced to the hunting party, to the guards, to the gathered servants. "Every true duke is born with it. Show them your wrist, Richard. Show them if you have the mark." Richard clutched his wrist, hiding it. He didn't have the mark. He was the second son. "He is a bastard," Richard screamed, pointing at Thomas. "A stable rat! Seize them, kill them both!" The guards drew their swords, but they didn't advance on Sarah. They hesitated. They looked at the boy who had the dark eyes of the late Duke, the boy who could calm a wild stallion with a touch. "Captain!" Richard roared at the head of the guard. "Do your duty!" The captain looked at Richard. He looked at the crop lying in the mud, the weapon of a bully. Then he looked at Thomas, standing tall beside his mother, unafraid. The captain sheathed his sword. "My duty is to the Duke," the captain said. He walked over to Thomas. He knelt in the mud. "Your Grace," the captain said, bowing his head. One by one the other guards knelt. The servants knelt. The hunting party, realising the game was up, bowed awkwardly. Thomas looked around, bewildered. He looked at his mother. "Mother," he whispered, "what is happening?" Sarah smiled. She wiped a smudge of dirt from his cheek. "You are not Thomas the stable boy, my love. You are Arthur, Duke of Somerset, and you are finally home." Richard panicked. He turned to run, scrambling for the horse. "Stop him!" Sarah commanded. Midnight, the stallion Richard had beaten moments ago, reared up. He blocked Richard's path, snapping his teeth. Richard fell backward into the mud. The guards seized him. Richard looked up at Sarah from the ground, his fine clothes ruined. "I let you live here," he spat. "I fed you. You fed us scraps," Sarah said, her voice hard. "You let my son sleep in the straw while you drank his father's wine. You let the estate rot. You are not a duke, Richard. You are a parasite." She turned to Thomas. "He is yours, Arthur. What is your judgment?" "Thomas?" Arthur looked at the man who had threatened to skin him. He held the power of life and death now. He could order Richard hanged. He could have him whipped. He looked at the riding crop in the mud. He picked it up. Richard flinched, covering his face. Arthur looked at the crop. Then he snapped it in two over his knee. He threw the pieces onto Richard's chest. "I will not beat you," Arthur said quietly. "That is what you would do. And I am nothing like you." He turned to the captain. "Take him to the tower. Let him look out the window at the land he lost. Let him see us rebuild it. That will be punishment enough." As they dragged Richard away, screaming curses, the courtyard burst into cheers. Sarah hugged her son, tears finally streaming down her face. She had held her breath for 10 years. Finally, she could exhale. That night, Arthur didn't sleep in the straw. He slept in the master bedroom, in a bed so soft it felt wrong. He woke up before dawn, out of habit. He walked down to the stables. Midnight was there, waiting. Arthur opened the stall. He rested his forehead against the horse's neck. "I don't know how to be a duke," he whispered to the horse. "I only know how to shovel manure." Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She was wearing a velvet dressing gown, her hair loose. She looked like a queen. "A good duke knows how to shovel manure," she said, smiling. "It keeps him humble." She walked over and hugged him. "You have the heart of a servant, Arthur. That is your greatest strength." Richard thought he was above the people. "You are one of them. That is why they will love you." And they did. Arthur became known as the Servant Prince. He was the duke who knew the name of every maid and every stable hand. He was the duke who worked in the fields during the harvest. And Sarah. She never went back to the kitchen, but every Sunday she would go down and bake a loaf of bread with her own hands, just to remind herself that she could. It is a powerful thought, isn't it? That the best leaders are the ones who have known what it is to serve. Thomas had to be lowered to the dust to learn how to lift others up. And it brings us to the question of the day. Sarah hid her identity for 10 years, suffering daily humiliation to keep her son safe. That is a level of patience I can barely comprehend. Could you have done it? Could you have scrubbed floors for your enemy for a decade, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Or would you have fought back sooner and risked everything? I think I would have snapped in week 2. Sarah is made of steel. If you loved the justice of the servant prince, hit that like button. Let's get this story to everyone who needs a reminder that the underdog can win. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We uncover the hidden histories they don't teach you in school. Until next time, remember, even a stable boy can wear a crown.